Hey everyone, we are going to do our first set of C notes for the year, okay? So if you have Avid, you can use these in your Avid class. This says, today I will add and subtract mixed numbers with and without regrouping. Essential question is, how do you regroup with mixed numbers when subtracting? So we've done that, but we're definitely going to review it. So the first question here is, what should be your first step when adding or subtracting fractions? And hopefully know your first step is to find the least common denominator. You have to have equal size pieces, okay? Now, if you've never done C notes before, you put your problem on the left, you don't solve it here, and you put your work on the right-hand side, okay? And that way you can use it as a study guide. You actually would generally fold it over to use it as practice. Now with our journal, it's a little different, but it's still a good skill set to have. So we're going to start the first couple together, and you're going to finish them off. And then we want to make sure we get to the regrouping, okay? So we want our LCD on this problem. So I'm actually going to move my work up here, okay? Just to make sure I have enough room. So I have 4 and 12, so I'm going to find that LCD first of 4 and 12. So I'm going to list my multiples. If you know this, you do not have to show this step, okay? But a lot of us are struggling. So 4 times 2 is 8, 4 times 3 is 12, and I know I can stop right there, okay? 4 is a factor of 12. So I know 12 will be my common denominator. So both of these I'm going to transfer over here, but I'm going to put a 12 here and a 12 here. So hopefully you know this second fraction is not going to change. You know why? Because the denominator did not change. So remember, we make equivalent fractions, or in this case, this one stays the same. This one we do. It was a 4, it became a 12. So I have to figure out 4 times what gives me 12, and that would be 4 times 3. Okay, so 1 times 3, which is 3. That is making equivalent fractions, okay? So I'm just double checking my work, looking this over, it looks correct to me. So now I'm going to add my numerators, 3 plus 3, which is 10. I'm going to put it over here. And then the denominator is 12. The whole number is 3 plus 2, which is 5. Now, hopefully you can tell these are both even, so it will simplify. So these both divide by 2. We can take half of them. If they're even, you can take half. Okay? So half of 10 is 5. Half of 12 is 6. And my whole number is still 5. Don't forget that part. And there is my final answer. That will not simplify further. Okay. So now we're going to try the next one. Now, if you remember what we talked about, 5 and 3, these are both prime numbers. If they're both prime, you can just multiply them together. If you make the list, you're going to see that you'll end up having to multiply them together. So since 5 and 3 are prime, I know 5 times 3 is 15. So I'm going to put that as my denominator. Now, I have to make equivalent fractions. 5 times what is 15? 5 times 3. If you do it to the bottom, you do it to the top. Okay? Minus, I'm just making sure. Now I've got to make equivalent fractions again. 3 times what is 15? 3 times 5. So if you do it to the bottom, you do it to the top. Now, normally, guys, I generally don't put work over here, but this is just kind of helping me along and saving me some space over here. So 2 times 5 is 10. My whole number is 3. So now I'm going to subtract my numerators. 12 minus 10. Bring over the denominator. Subtract the whole numbers. 9 take away 3 is 6. Okay, so 2 is prime, and it is not a factor of 15. 15 is not even. Can't divide by 2. So this is my final answer. Now, if you feel like I'm going too fast, please feel free to pause this video. I want to make sure I can get through as many of these as possible for you. Okay? So now we're going to look at the third problem. And again, we have prime numbers. 3 is prime, 7 is prime. So if they're prime, I can just multiply them. 3 times 7. So think about that. What is 3 times 7? It is 21, and I know that I'm doing this a little bit up because I'm going to need some room here, okay? So I'm going to put 21 is my denominator for both of them. Okay? So that means each of these changed. So that means I've got to make equivalent fractions for both. Now hopefully, because these are prime, this is going to tell you 3 times what is 21? Well, it's going to have to be this number. 3 times what is 21? Times 7. Now what is 2 times 7? Or 7 times 2? And we're going to put my whole number. Plus 7 times what is 21? Hopefully you know it's that number. 7 times 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. And my whole number is 2. Okay, just kind of double checking. I like to double check my work. Okay, so now I'm going to add those numerators. 14 plus 15. 29. My denominator is 21. We keep it the same. 5 plus 2 is 7. Now this is one we do need to regroup because this is improper, okay? That means this part is more than 1. I can already tell you this number is not going to end up a 7. It's going to end up an 8, okay? Because I'm going to divide this and make it mixed. So notice I am ignoring the 7 right now. 21 into 29 goes 1. 21. How much is left? That becomes your numerator, and the denominator stays the same. Okay, now I will check here in just a second to see if I can simplify. But remember, this 7 and this 1, do not forget to put them back together. So this here, remember that was more than 1, so I'm going to add that 1 here, so that's 8. 8 and 8 over 21. So this is even, this is not. This only divides by 3 and 7. This will not divide by 3 and 7. So this is my final answer. Okay? So now let's do the next one. This is where we're getting to the tougher stuff here, so make sure you're paying attention. So let's do my LCD. I have 2 and 8. Prime, not prime. Again, if you already know what the LCD is, you'll do fine. You won't get behind on this. So the LCD, I have 2 and 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. I can already see what it is. Okay? So 8 is my denominator. So if I look over here, this first fraction, that is not going to change. Okay? This fraction. This one will. This one will not. Okay? So I'm going to go in and put my fraction here. 6. I'm changing this to an 8. So 6 times what gives me 8? Times 4, right? So I multiply the numerator by 4. Make equivalent fractions. Minus this one, remember, we're not changing it. That one stayed the same. Now our problem is one, this is my numerator here. This one is smaller than this one. Okay? So I'm going to have to get some help. So this tells me I have 4 pieces, but I need to take away 7. So I'm going to go to one of the holes, and I'm going to take away 1. And this 1 I'm going to break into 8 pieces so that I have enough pieces. I need to take away 7, and I only have 4. So I borrowed 1, and I broke it into 8 pieces. So really, I have 8 plus another 4, which is 12. If you don't understand that, make it improper. I borrowed 1, I'm giving it to the fraction. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12 over 8. Do not regroup the second fraction. It won't make sense to do that. Okay? So I'm double checking my numbers here. This was a 6. I know it's going to become a 5 because I had to regroup. So that's good. Little things that I know immediately if you did it right or wrong by checking that whole number. So 2 is my whole number. 12 minus 7, I know I did that out of order, but since I already knew I had to regroup, I knew it was going to work. 12 minus 7, 5, and my denominator is 8. Okay? Last question, everybody. What I want you to do when you're done here is explain how we regrouped in the summary. Okay? So, 8 and 1/6 minus 4 and 3/8. So I'm going to do my LCD. I can tell I have a common factor of 2. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 2 times 4 gives me 8. So I am not going to multiply 6 times 8 to give me my common denominator. My common denominator will be less than 48. So 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. Look how quick it goes if you know your multiplication tables. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 8 times 3 is 24. And there we have a match. Okay? So, by the way, I did not put my box around this answer. That's going to bother me. So what I'm going to do is use 24. That's my denominator. Both of these are going to change. So I'm going to say 8, 24, another minus 24. So 6 times what is 24? 6 times 4. So I have to do that here. 1 times 4 is 4. 8 times what is 24? 8 times 3, right? So that's 9. Keep my whole number there. When I go to subtract the numerators, 4 minus 9, guys, it's not going to work. So I have to regroup. Okay, I don't have enough pieces. I need 9. I only have 4. So I'm going to borrow 1. Okay. And I'm going to give it to the fraction, remember? So I take 1 and I'm breaking it basically into 24 pieces. So I had 4, now I have 24 more. How many total pieces is that? 28. I'm adding those, or you can just make it improper. 24 times 1 is 24 plus 4 is 28 over 24. My whole number is now 7 minus 4 and 9 over 24. Okay. Now I'm going to go to subtract. 28 minus 9. I want you to do that by yourself. What's 28 minus 9? I'm going to give you a second. Hopefully you got 19. Denominator 24 and 3. And I'm rewriting it over here just to make it closer to my answer. This will not simplify because 19 is prime, and it is not a factor of 24. So I want you just to describe in your own words here, how do we regroup? You don't even have to talk about finding the common denominator. How do you know when you regroup? Okay, do that.